It's KFI AM 640, and you're listening to The Conway Show on demand on the iHeartRadio app.
Ding dong with The Conway Show. Tim's away for the holidays. Mark Thompson sitting in today. So great to have everybody along. We have the full Conway crew. Crows is here watching news as it develops. And Bella on the board. Angel, I believe, is trafficking. And so life is good with Matt in the producer's chair. And this first story out of the chute is a pretty important one. I mean, whenever you have the governor declaring a state of emergency around something, it's pretty serious stuff. In this case, it's the bird flu. And don't take my word for it. Take the word of a real ABC News correspondent. Alex Stone joins us. What's up, Alex?
How are you?
I'm well. It's always great to talk to you.
It's always great to talk to you, too.
So
you bring a smile to my face. I love hearing you.
Well, thank you very much. And right back at you. So there is, I guess, this bird flu, which we were kind of hoping would be controlled. There's been all kinds of, aggressive action to try to control it. But the CDC is saying now that there is this bird flu outbreak, and it's bad enough that what's happening here in California.
Yeah, so if we go back to August, at that time, everybody was, in the farming industry and in the health industry saying this is an animal thing. It was in cattle, it was in birds, and that was about it. Well, since then, it had jumped from animals to humans, and all of these cases have been very mild, mostly eye redness for most people, some cold symptoms. And then today, which is not a huge surprise, but was something that in the medical world they hoped it would not do, it became severe. And one person in Louisiana, not in California, but in Louisiana. California has had the most cases, 34 of the 61 confirmed so far. 645 dairy herds in California are infected, 865 nationwide, so majority are in California. And in Louisiana, the person who has it is now in critical condition, hospitalized, and is over 65, has underlying medical conditions, but it is serious. And that is something that it was that everybody was hoping it would not do that. We don't know of any human-to-human transmission. It appears it's only coming from animals to humans right now. That could change. But today, Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency over it. And, Mark, it's kind of an administrative move so they can move things around and do contracts and other things for the response if they need to do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what it actually does.
An emergency.
Yeah. I mean, it gets your attention, but I was going to ask you from a practical standpoint what that actually means, what you just answered.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a panic all of a sudden, like something in California all of a sudden changed. And the governor's office saying that the risk to the public is low, that they don't think that to the average Californian there's a lot of danger. You remember about a week ago, there were a number of animals that died at an Arizona zoo outside of Phoenix in Maricopa County, and those weren't all birds. We're talking like a mountain lion that had it and died, and a white tiger that got it and is recovering right now. There are 2 house cats in California that have it or had it, and the question is, will that spread to their owner? So it's been a number of different animals, but most of these in California, and really nationally, it's been pretty clear how people got it. That they work in the dairy industry, that they milk cows or are around the machines milking the cows, or they're around wild birds or around poultry, and that they got it that way. There's one case that they don't know the answer to in Alameda County. It is a child who got bird flu who was not drinking raw milk. Family members didn't have it, had not been around cattle, had not been around wild birds as far as anybody knows. The theory is that the child was around wild birds and maybe the family didn't know it or was around wild bird droppings, but that child got it and recovered and had a mild illness. But other than that case, they've been able to say, hey, look, this guy works at a dairy farm. This guy, the one in Louisiana, he was around sick and dead birds and backyard flocks, so they know how he got it. No real mystery there, but still, he's seriously ill.
So just to review, there isn't really any evidence that the virus can spread human to human. And
not yet, and hopefully we don't get there. But as of right now, no evidence it has gone human to human.
And if you're working directly with animals, then you should be particularly concerned with this, and probably, I would think those people are wearing PPE equipment, even sort of some kind of minimal mask or whatever. But apart from that, the threat to us who are not working with animals directly is minimal.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that you're going to get it if you're not around animals, as of now, as it stands at this point. And even if you are around animals, you're probably still highly unlikely to get it. If you're around cows, that's maybe a different story at this point, with 645 herds in California that have got it. That if you're in the milk industry, yeah, well, if at the farm level of the milk industry, and don't drink raw milk. It's been found in raw milk. If you drink it and it's got bird flu in it, which we know multiple samples have, and raw milk is the unpasteurized, not what you're buying at the grocery store, but
sure.
the purposely unpasteurized milk, that is a risk there. Kind of interesting, the genetic makeup of the virus that the serious case in Louisiana has, that it is the version that is spreading among wild birds and poultry. There have been a couple of human cases in Canada and the Pacific Northwest, but it is a different version than what is spreading in dairy cows in California. So it is not the same one that out on farms is spreading in California, but it is one that has been seen in the Pacific Northwest, in Canada, but now just through migration of birds, it is in Louisiana, but it's different than the other.
That's fascinating. I think one of the things they're concerned about, sort of that might dovetail a little bit with that, is the fact that there can be mutations of the virus. And I guess they're worried about some sort of confluence between flu and this virus. I'd read that, and I don't know if that, how big a threat that is, but, I'm always looking to scare myself, so I really focused on that as a possibility.
Yeah, well, you remember that with COVID, where they were worried about what if people got flu and COVID at the same time,
right.
And what would it do? So that potential seems like it could definitely be there. But at this point, there is no major risk. And now, granted, at the beginning of COVID, we said the same thing. But this person in Louisiana who's got it has these underlying conditions that we know so much about. But you know what? Most of us probably have underlying conditions, whether we know it or not. But the situation in California is mainly, at least in this state, confined to dairy farms, and that all of these cases in this state have been really, really mild of the eye redness and some cold symptoms, but mainly eye redness. So there's no reason to panic at this point. But yeah, the governor declaring a state of emergency, that got everybody's attention today, but the governor's office saying this is administrative, move things around, open up, so they don't have to go to the legislature for everything, that if they need it to be ready.
Yeah, good stuff. Alex, I'll tell you something I've never told you before.
Tell me.
I'm always so impressed with you particularly, because as a general assignment reporter and correspondent, you have to become an expert in so many different things. I mean, I understand maybe not the capital E in expert, but you have to know your stuff, and you always do. Even listen to you on this story, you talk about the genetic makeup of this.
It's really annoying if you live with me, and I come home and go, well, let me tell you what's actually going on right now. My wife's like, stop talking.
Yeah.
Just stop
Fortunately,
talking.
I only get you in small bursts. So. All right. Hey, happy holidays, man. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, see you. Alex Stone from ABC. Yeah, pretty good stuff. Essentially, because he's saying the risk is right now minimal when it comes to the bird flu. Quickly, I'll mention Prop 36 next. If you don't know what Prop 36 is, I'll fill you in. I think you'll like it. It goes into effect, and we will talk. Also, the Dow took a big hit. We'll get to that later. And budget airlines are revamping. I'll tell you how.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
It just snuck up on me, the whole thing this year. I don't know. Before you know it, you're 60. Then before you know it, you're 65. And then before you know it, you're 75. Tell me. It just, all of life clicks by so quickly. I'm still on the beginning of the ramp up to the holiday season. I'm scrambling. Got a Secret Santa thing I got to do. I've got I've got a number of different gift exchanges, one of those drop-ins that I've got to scramble to, bring something with me. So however you're planning for Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever your deal is, I hope it's going well. Stay within the boundaries of the law, though. I don't want anybody to go rogue and become a shoplifter be involved in any kind of even small-scale robbery. And why don't I want that? I mean, A, it's wrong, but B, because Prop 36, which I'm certain you're familiar with because it won with such a majority of the vote that it would be astounding to me that any voter in California wouldn't know what Prop 36 is, but it is changing things, especially for repeat offenders.
We know that you could soon travel for a very low price through Frontier.
Wait a minute. That's not what I want. I want Prop 36.
Prop 36 is something that would bring back harsher penalties for theft and certain drug crimes, issues that have plagued the Bay Area and the state in recent years. Now, this is something that voters overwhelmingly approved last month by nearly 70%. Prop 36 reverses Prop 47, which passed back in 2014, reducing some felonies to misdemeanors. Reclassification meant crimes such as repeat shoplifting merchandise under $950 carried a much lighter sentence. Sacramento County Sheriff Jim Cooper says.
By the way, one of the things that always surprised me in this regard, because once this sort of seemed to take on sort of an epidemic proportion, you saw all of the video of people shoplifting in San Francisco and in LA. To some degrees, it was more a kind of organized mob theft, that sort of thing. But the viral videos with people ripping stuff off from Walgreens and this kind of sort of low-grade theft, it really made us focus on the fact that we've got this, $950 limit, essentially. So if whatever's stolen doesn't meet that threshold and it's surpassed that threshold, it's not $1,000 or whatever it is, that it really just gets classified in such a way that shoplifters are not really punished. So we started looking around at other states that, you associate maybe being tougher on crime, like Texas, for example. I just figure Texas really kicks some A when it comes to people shoplifting things. Well, I don't know what it is now, but when I started looking at it just a couple of years ago, it was $2,000 was the threshold in Texas. They had an even higher threshold than we did. So it's odd. I mean, I always wonder, here in California, I always think of us as sort of being a bit more liberal in terms of these things and too easy. I'm very tough on law and order stuff, so I really think that there should be some tough penalties associated with this. And to see that there are tougher penalties here than there are in Texas was kind of astounding to me. But anyway, back to Prop 36.
Sacramento County Sheriff Jim Cooper says so far this year they've arrested around 1,000 people for retail theft, and about 80 to 90% were just given citations. But now with Prop 36, he expects a big change in the behavior of re-offending.
Because it really changed the landscape, because up until now, if you stayed below 950, you got a citation and didn't go to jail. Now if you have two convictions, that third conviction becomes a wobbler. It can become a felony and really has some teeth into it.
Yeah, so if you're going to get arrested a third time, make it a good one, is the point.
Prop 36 also creates a new treatment-focused court process for some drug possession crimes. In a statement, State Attorney General Rob Bonta said, "Let us harness the strength of our partnerships, the power of new legislation, and the collective resolve of our community to create a safer and more secure environment for everyone." Now, business owners also say they have great hope for Prop 36. That's because when they've called for shoplifting, sometimes no one responds because up until today, that crime was just a misdemeanor.
Yeah, and this is a really good point. I mean, you see this stuff going down in your store. You call somebody, you can't get anybody to even show up because it's just paperwork. It's going to be a slap on the wrist to these guys. And I get it that Prop 47 was in response to mass incarceration, the feeling that the prisons were becoming so filled with low-grade offenders that it was defeating the purpose, not to mention the expense. But we've lived with that now long enough that it's just despicable to be in any kind of store, to see things locked up the way they are, to see people walk away with total impunity with whatever things they grab that are not totaling up $950, whatever. There's just a sense that there's a lawlessness. And I personally am sick of it. I mean, I just feel as though we want a city and we want a state that others look up to that can be the envy of the world. And on some level, we are the envy of the world. I mean, look at look at the geography of the state, the topography of the state, the skiing, the surfing, the agriculture. I mean, the fact that we are an economic engine of the world and that we can't clean up these petty theft and drug crime issues because of legislation that was on the books. I say bravo, Prop 36. I mean, you've got to get some law and order back. So, again, the governor, as you know, is against this. He was out against Prop 36 early, saying that Prop 37 saves so much money through reduced incarcerations. That's what I was talking about. But the reality is, the people have spoken. You get 70% of the vote. I mean, Californians are overwhelmingly behind Prop 36. So, again, some misdemeanors become felonies, and now the burglaries involving items that are valued at less than $950 were classified as misdemeanors, but that's not the case. Prop 36 will undo a lot of these penalty reductions and turn misdemeanors into felonies, especially if someone is committing similar crimes in their life in the past. So that's the situation with Prop 36. The stock market took a tumble, a big one. Live updates and politics of Washington. Is that having an effect on the market as well?
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
Mark Thompson here for Tim Conway Jr. That's one of the things that happens during the holiday season, is that a lot of people go on vacation. So it's great to be able to sit in, hang out. Crozier is here for this week, which is really cool because he's he's on the A team. So I feel very lucky. And a lot of people, it's sort of like they wait in the wings, just like the understudies on a Broadway show. When one of the stars goes down, they step up. So Stafouche is out. Bell is there. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Ready to go. Same is true with Matt. Bellio's out. Matt steps up. We also have Angel on board. It is a good show ahead with a lot going on, not the least of which is the stock market, which took a hit today. I mean, it was pretty brutal.
The stocks went into free fall today, not so much because the Fed cut rates by another quarter point. That was widely expected. No, the catalyst here was Fed Chief Jerome Powell signaling that there would be fewer rate cuts going into 2025. Now, in part, today's declines on the market were a sign of simply traders taking their pieces off the board until the dust settled.
I thought that by the way, when there is a rate cut, there's typically a rise in the market. Consumer borrowing gets cheaper, right? These are things that typically help the market. So usually the market, I was surprised that with the Fed making the cut, that the market tumbled. He's saying, no, but what's happening here is there are a lot of investors just taking their profits for the year.
Traders taking their pieces off the board until the dust settles. So that's a natural thing. Also, there's a sense of disappointment out there that if the Fed cuts rates only twice next year as opposed to the expected 4 times, that could be bad for business. And that sent a chill through financial markets. Here's what Fed Chief Jerome Powell had to say.
If the economy remains strong and inflation does not continue to move sustainably toward 2%, we can dial back policy restraint more slowly.
And what he's saying there is basically monetary policy could be decelerated, fewer rate cuts next year. That means borrowing costs for businesses could remain a bit more elevated than had been hoped, and that's bad for business. And that's one key reason the market is throwing a hissy fit today.
It's kind of wild because you look at the Dow last week, you look at the market last week, it was incredible. I mean, closed above 45,000 for the first time ever on December 4th. The total losses for the Dow during the losing streak totaled 6%. But, really, what you're looking at here is a complex set of things going on in the market. I always feel as though the market wants stability. And on some level, if you look at things right now, in American politics, there is a bit of instability. There's talk of, for example, of tariffs These tariffs are taking a front and center seat with coming Trump economic policy. There's talk of a trade war. I mean, the idea somehow that you're now talking to our neighbors to the north, Canada, in a way that would suggest there may be more of an adversarial relationship there than there was in the past. These are things that are arguably destabilizing, and investors like stability. So you can say, well, it was just investors taking some of their chess pieces off the table. All right. I mean, maybe. I think that kind of cold slap in the face when you lose 1,000 points on the Dow, that's a sign maybe of something else. Now, the other thing that was going on today was the government funding bill. There had been a government funding bill that had passed. Mike Johnson, of course, the Republican House Speaker, he led this effort as a bipartisan effort to keep the government open. This is, again, a continuing resolution that will keep things going through March. And there was a sense of relief, celebration about that. But then Elon Musk, who was clearly going to have an oversized seat at the table in the new Trump administration, he started with protests about this. He became quite vocal, saying that this should not work. This new package is too filled with spending. And it was filled with spending. I mean, this is how to get a package through. In fact, the phrase in Washington is it's a Christmas tree bill, which means there are all of these ornaments on it, and those ornaments are giveaways. That's how to get the bill passed. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's the way Washington has worked since the beginning. But with Musk making a stink, Donald Trump came on board. So they've both come out against this Republican-backed government funding bill, and Musk's crusade against spending may increase the odds of a government shutdown now. Trump is saying he's opposed to the continuing resolution put forward by Mike Johnson, and Trump told a Fox News host he's totally against this bill. The quote is, Republicans want to support our farmers, pay for disaster relief, and set our country up for success in 2025. The only way to do that is with a temporary funding bill without Democrat giveaways. Combined with an increase in the debt ceiling, it's a bad bill. That's J.D. Vance saying that. So you've got this strong pushback by the leading political figures in the GOP, and there is now question as to how things will proceed. So, look, shutting down the government, which, again, we've been through before, not a good thing. It doesn't help with faith in the economy. It doesn't help with faith in the future. It actually can affect our credit rating. Again, these have been gambits that have been pursued by both parties, all right? But they really felt they had passed this CR, as it's called, continuing resolution, at the last moment, at the 11th hour. And now to have this pushback leaves them in a tough spot. So Johnson was saying that he'd been texting overnight with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who are the co-presidents, apparently. And he said they understand the situation. But we got to get this done, Johnson said. By doing this, we are clearing the decks for Trump to enact his agenda. There's some truth to that. I mean, if you really want to start clean, pass this, and there's plenty of time, and there's plenty of energy, clearly, to get a Trump administration off on time and cleanly. But right now, there's more than $100 billion in disaster relief that's aimed to address the hurricanes that tore through Florida and North Carolina earlier this year. There's even some wildfire money. So this is a to-be-continued situation. But I wonder then, if from a 30,000-foot view, if you look at stocks in a free fall, I just wonder to what extent there is an instability right now around the American economy that concerns investors. That and maybe some profit taking. But it affects all of us because most of us, one way or another, even if we don't own a bunch of stock, we have our pensions associated with the stock market. And as you know, our futures are secured essentially by a lot of these investments. So it's something to watch. The good news is that there's another market tomorrow. Yeah, it opens tomorrow, and there's a whole great future. It could drop another 1,000 points tomorrow. Budget airlines are revamping. Frontier, Spirit, and Southwest are all shifting their business models. Talk about that next.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
Got a couple of emails, Crozier. It's always odd when I get an email from a KFI listener who's concerned about I guess we talked about the plumbing situation, which, as you know, at my house is a complex web of different things going on with the hot water and the cold water. And
do you have hot water now?
Now I do. And guess who fixed it? Me, a guy who, I've been to Lowe's once in my life. I've been to Home Depot maybe 3 times. As you know, when I bought a bunch of things at Home Depot, I bought those dams that you set up and then they expand when they get wet. They're kind of like sandbags. I bought like $500 of those. And American Express actually declined the charge because they said there's fraud on your card because this obviously doesn't follow the kind of spending that you would normally have since you don't go to Lowe's or Home Depot. This is how out of the handyman world that I am, is my point. I'm a total idiot when it comes to fixing things. But last night, I rode in and I fixed the hot water. Incredible. Yeah, thank you. Look, I'm not I'm not looking for a smattering of applause or anything. I'm just saying that it's quite extraordinary. It was a big reach for me.
Did you actually turn on the water, the hot water? Was that the difference?
How dare you? How dare you? Even though that was the problem the first time. We called the plumber once before. Crozier's referring to the fact that we have a tankless water heater and we have one of those recirculation pumps and couldn't get any hot water in the house. And the plumber comes out and he says, "Oh, you don't have the circulation pump on." Oh, okay, never mind. But this time we had an actual plumber who couldn't get the thing working. So I had to come in, and it's not the most intuitive setup, and I was able to do it. So I feel quite proud of myself, and I'm patting myself on the back. But thank you. A couple of KFI listeners actually dropped me a line and said, "How's the hot water at your house?" Which is cool. So
you have to tell me, because I'm sure it's probably in the weeds, how you ended up getting it worked out.
How I ended up getting it going?
Yeah.
Yeah. I needed to get the manual out and basically, program the system or make sure that the system was in a certain state. What had happened, he had left it not off, but not active. And so it was really deceiving because you're getting the green light like everything's good. But the reality is the timer which it's on is not really active. It's completely confusing.
It's not a water pressure setting?
I don't think so. It's a Navian system.
Okay.
Which is a really, I think, good system.
Yes.
But it's also a bit complicated. But this is how bad it was. The plumber's there, and he's calling Navian, the company that makes the thing. And I heard the average wait time. He's on the hold thing, and I overheard it. The average wait time for your call is 35 minutes. Thinking, wow, this is really not going to go well. So I said, hey, just don't worry about it. We'll work it out. And we did. So that's the amazing thing.
Would you have had to pay for that time if he sat there waiting?
Probably, right? Although he is the one who turned off the system to begin with. So wouldn't it fall? I mean, maybe you could argue with him about it. I don't know how much it would be, but I'd be so happy to get the hot water that I don't know if I'd argue over, whatever, another $50 or something. But man, when the expert doesn't know what's going on, he was a real plumber, he with the truck, with the, with the number, with the supplies, with the stuff. And he didn't know what was going on. So these systems can be complicated. And each one is a little bit different, is the point. But anyway, we do have hot water. So, yeah, please contact the governor. The state of emergency at my home has been relaxed. There is big change coming in the world of airlines and discount airlines. And one of the things that's going to be happening is that a lot of the stuff that you may or may not like, let's say, just showing up on Southwest, there's not really assigned seating. They're a discount airline. They're considered among these discount airlines. They're getting rid of that. There will be assigned seating on Southwest, right? Extra legroom for certain people who are frequent flyers. There are some pretty substantial changes coming, not only for Southwest, but Frontier, Spirit. These are the discount airlines that will have changes in the new year.
You're changing the business model, though. After 50 years, you are now going to assigned seating, premium seating with more legroom for up to a third of the cabin, new boarding system. Why change now?
Well, I'm very excited about the set of strategic initiatives that we have to transform the company. And this
He's
is
the CEO speaking.
We've been building for 2 years, adding seat back power, adding larger bins, expanding our Wi-Fi performance. This is what our customers want. 80% of customers that fly Southwest today want an assigned seat. 86% of customers that don't fly Southwest want an assigned seat. And when a customer defects from Southwest to another competitor, it's the number one reason. So it's the right thing at the right time.
But did it take Elliott management taking a stake and saying, you guys aren't doing well enough in order for you to make this change? Because the cynic out there will look at this and say, well, you've had to have known this for years. Why have you waited until now to make these changes?
Yeah.
The Elliott thing had nothing to do with it. We've been working on this since last fall. We very rigorously studied this. It's a big change, so you don't do this lightly. So an extensive focus on surveying our customers.
Yeah, I mean, I buy that. I buy that. They see, he calls it defection. You see people going to other carriers and, you know, what other carriers are doing. Sure. Now, before you get too excited, roughly a third of Southwest seats overall will have premium extra legroom setups. They're going to offer at least 3 additional inches of legroom, everybody. I know, calm down. 34 and 36 inches of pitch.
So, but getting the seats, the assigned seats now, is that going to be a fee, an extra fee?
Well, there will be A-list preferred tier passengers, Michael Crozier. That'll require 40 one-way flights or 70,000 elite qualifying miles.
So it's
and
frequent
those
flyer crap, which is, you know, the vast majority of people don't have anything to do with.
Yeah. So again, that you'd be able to select more in the way of legroom seats at the time of booking if you're a frequent Southwest traveler. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to build loyalty.
Right.
You know?
So all seats are going to be assigned from now on?
Yeah, all seats will be assigned, but the premium seating options are the ones that would go to frequent.
So the premium ones cost extra, but to have it, but getting an assigned seat that's not a premium, is that going to be extra?
No, that should not be extra.
It's going to be free.
Yeah, it'll be included in your.
Because I mean, their argument was, you know, well, you know, the other airlines wanted it. You know, 80-90% of people want an assigned seat, but the other airlines also charge, you know, a lot. At least with some of these budget ones.
Yeah, the game there is they play with the kind of seat you have, right? So it's you have a premium economy, or you know what I mean?
They present these things like, hey, we're doing this great thing for it, and then it turns out it's like, oh, it's this, but yet then you got to do this.
Well, this is important. I mean, they're trying to make money, and premium seating
they're not
options.
Struggling with money.
No. I'm not shedding a tear for them. I'm just saying that this is the kind of stuff. This is where they make their money in premium seating options. Their premium seating options in airlines are one of the most significant sources of revenue.
If you're talking about like the first class or the business class and all that
or
stuff.
Premium economy, that's my point. When people go, hey, you know, and you have to pay more to sit on an aisle, they're doing all that stuff. That's where they make their money.
But that's where they make their money?
More than anything, yeah. Here you go.
So the seats that are not upgraded are still crap. So they're making this situation miserable and then offering, what if you want a little more room? Break out your wallet.
Yeah. I mean, they say that they're upgrading the flights all the way, but it's unclear if that, as you say, the regular seats will be any better.
I'm all in favor of the budget airlines kind of hitting that niche for people because there are enough people that definitely would love that. It just strikes me as just crappy when it just ends up being the same thing. And a lot of their models, they're putting it after the big budget airlines. They're basically using their models.
Right. That's, I mean, and certainly now Southwest is going to quack a lot like the other airlines because there's assigned seating, and we'll see. They don't charge for baggage, right? On Southwest, you can check your bags for free.
Let's see how long that stays.
Yeah, that's a big deal because that's another big source of income for these other airlines. By the way, the Go Wild Pass. You're familiar with that? The Go Wild Pass. You don't know about that? I'll tell you about that next hour.
Please do.
Yeah, the Go Wild Pass is something that will also be instituted. And in the new year, you may want to avail yourself of it. We'll get to that next. It is the Conway Show. Ding dong. Tim is away. Mark Thompson sitting in on KFI AM 640. Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Conway Show on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Now, you can always hear us live on KFI AM 640, 4 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and anytime on demand on the iHeartRadio app.